Okay, so a bit of a job here on my 95 Enfield Bullet 500. I'm taking off both wheels. I already did the front wheel. It was a little bit of a shake in it, so I had lost a weight somehow. I don't know how, but anyway, so I took it off and rebalanced it and just checked it to make sure it was still round, and it is. Put it all back together, but today it's the rear wheel's turn, so I definitely have lost a couple of weights off of there. When I ride, get it up to 80, 90 kilometers an hour, you can definitely feel a bit of a shake vibration. So I'm going to take the wheel off and rebalance it and refit it, as well as just check it to make sure it's still in a nice round condition and it isn't got any big flat spots. These tires, I think, are about 3 years old, so they're still good condition. And I don't put a lot of kilometers on this thing anyway. So the rear wheel on these bikes is pretty cool. It's pretty unique. You're able to take off the rear wheel without having to disturb the sprocket. There's the axle just goes through the center of this guy here. Let me get underneath there. I got my hand in the way, sorry. Goes in through here. I've already pushed the axle out a bit, but the castle nut, which is here, goes over it there, and you put the cotter pin through. The castle nut is supposed to be 1/2 inch Whitworth, and 1/2 inch Whitworth is close. I've got a box end wrench as well as the socket. They don't quite fit over, so I ended up having to use a 24 millimeter socket, which fits perfectly, and then it's easily taken off. The wrench is kind of difficult to get in here with the brake rod in the way. You don't have to disturb the brake rod, so I use the socket. But what's kind of cool about these bikes, the manual talks about tilting the bike to get the rear wheel off, but you don't have to on this model anyway. You just have to loosen these nuts here. This one up here, which is 5/16 Whitworth, and the bottom one, which is 7/16 Whitworth. This is split. This rod here, where it goes around, is split on this side. So you can literally, once they're loosened at top and on the bottom, you don't have to take them off. Just loosen them. That'll just pivot up out of the way, and then you're able to get the wheel out. When you push this axle through, there's a spacer on the right-hand side of the bike that's going to drop down, so you have to refit that when you get it back in. But yeah, I've done this before, and it's kind of a cool setup. The first time I did it, I didn't know about that trick, and it sure makes it a lot easier when you can just pivot the whole fender up and out of the way. So just a handy little tip for these bikes, and hope to get this thing balanced up and back on, and then when the weather turns nice again, we're hovering around 3-4 degrees during the daytime around here. When it starts getting nice again, I'll get her out for a ride and try her out and make sure the balancing did the trick. I have the wheel off now, so I thought I'd just quickly show you what it looks like with the fender being able to pivot. See if I can do this one hand. So you see, just pivots there. And then those bottom stays, you might have to squeeze them in on each side a little bit, or jiggle them a little bit to get them to pop out, but they'll pop out. And then just pivots up, and the wheel comes right off. Well, the wheel is in the sprocket on the cush rubbers, so you kind of got to move it a little bit to the right, and then it'll just drop down. So when you go to put it back in, it's just the reverse. You line up the dogs with the cush rubbers, and you put it back on the sprocket, and then you got to kind of put the spacer on the end of the axle with the what do you call the thing for the adjuster, and that snail adjuster, and yeah, push it back through and tighten it up, and Bob's your uncle.